I'm joined here with Edward Willett, and he is a Canadian author and podcaster. Now, you recently released the third book in the World Shaper series. What can readers expect in this book?
Oh, well, this one is a lot of fun. This one is set in a world that is, well, my working title for a while was Werewolves and Vampires and Peasants. Oh my. It's set in a world where there are werewolves and vampires, and my characters who are trying to find out who shaped this world, trying to find who's behind it. I have to negotiate this very odd place with monsters, basically, and without getting turned into a vampire or eaten by a werewolf.
And now, another book that will be released soon to print is Shapers of World. And now you edited this and put a lot of work into this. So, just how was it working on this book?
This was exciting. I have a podcast called The World Shapers. Worldshapers.com is the website, theworldshapers.com. And I interview other science fiction and fantasy authors about their creative process. And I also have a little publishing company called Shadow Press. And I attended a presentation about kickstarting an anthology a year or so ago. And I thought, I know a lot of authors. So I decided to kickstart this anthology and offered all of the first-year guests of my podcast if they wanted to be part of it. And I got an amazing response from international bestsellers, people like John Scalzi and Tanya Huff and David Brin, people like that. And so I kickstarted it successfully, and it's about half reprints, half original fiction from these amazing authors. And it's just been a great fun working with them, and very exciting to see it come to life. It's already out as an ebook everywhere, and the print will be out in mid-November.
And you just kind of touched on this, but what was your reaction really to all the support that you did receive for it?
It was, well, having been in the field for a while, I've gone to conventions and stuff like that. So some of these people I had met in person, others I only met through, doing the podcast. But as I say in my foreword, when I first was interested in science fiction fantasy as a kid, growing up in Weyburn, Saskatchewan, not a hotbed of science fiction fantasy. And these people who wrote the lens, on top of Mount Olympus, and I could never aspire to that. But over the years, I've met some of them, and they're just people. And I'm still thrilled, though, to know that I have, for example, Joe Haldeman. When I was a kid reading The Forever War by Joe Haldeman, if you had told me that someday I would be publishing a story by him in a book that I had edited, and that I would have met him in person and talked to him and interviewed him and, had dinner with him, I would have thought that was absolutely impossible for a kid from Weyburn, but it's happened.
And even with the other authors that are featured in this and that you've talked to before in your podcast, what was it like working with them?
They're all great. We're all, science fiction fantasy is a genre where you're all dealing with the same challenges whenever you're writing a story. You're always trying to create a world that will be believable, even though it's not our world by any stretch of the imagination. Well, yes, by a stretch of the imagination, it's a world. So we're all dealing with the same kinds of issues and problems, and all writers are dealing with the same kinds of challenges of characterization and plotting and all of that. So talking to other authors and finding out how they tackle some of these things, that's what the World Shapers is all about, is the process. And it's been wonderful, and everybody's been very, very generous with their time. I just can't say enough about how wonderful my guests have been. My books are available through any bookstore. Daw Books is a major publisher, and Shadow Paw Press is not, but thanks to the magic of independent publishing these days, it's available through every ebook store right now, Amazon, Chapters, whatever you like. And the print book will also be available through any bookstore that might not have it, but you can certainly order it in. Or you can get it directly from me. Shadow Paw Press has its own website, shadowpawpress.com. For the other one, I sell my books myself through edwardwillettshop.com. My main website is edwardwillett.com, but I have edwardwillettshop.com, and you can buy autographed copies directly from me if you'd like. Although at the moment I don't have the Moonlit World because of COVID-19. My author's copies have not arrived, but at some point I will have copies.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Edward.
Well, thanks so much for having me.